And today, we reacted to how every infamous dictator died. No cap, if you moving like that and you really on that tight timing, yeah, you deserve to get done the worst way. The worstest of ways for sure.
Adolf Hitler. When Soviet tanks rumbled through the streets of Berlin in late April 1945, Adolf Hitler knew his empire had crumbled. The man who once commanded millions was now trapped underground.
How they take a
Adolf Hitler knew his empire had crumbled. The man who
how they take a nigga with this kind of haircut and mustache combo serious? Like, how you look at him and say, you know what, I'm gonna follow whatever he says. It's absolute law. This is my guy. I just can't see. He look. Come on, bro. You can't tell me the cut and the mustache don't look stupid. Like that nigga was not. He was not trendy for sure. He wasn't.
who once commanded millions was now trapped underground like a rat. Hitler spent his final days in a concrete bunker beneath the Reich Chancellery, surrounded by a shrinking circle of loyalists who watched their Führer deteriorate before their eyes. On April 29th, he married his longtime companion Eva Braun in a bizarre midnight ceremony. The next day, April 30th, 1945, Hitler said his final goodbyes. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, he and Eva retreated to their private quarters. What happened?
Side note, y'all know he was really good at painting. My coworker told me that. I did not know that. You know, I ain't no little buddy can paint his ass off. That's like the only good thing that nigga ever did in his life. Made some crazy ass paintings. Everything else is fuck buddy for sure. But he can paint though for sure.
The next was confirmed by those who found them. Hitler had bitten into a cyanide capsule and shot himself in the head simultaneously.
No,
Even
bro. See, if you going crazy, like I said, you have to go out the same way you was trying to go. Nah, if you out here causing mass murder, go out there and you gotta die about it. Simple as that. You can't take the coward's way out. Nah, that's not how it works.
died beside him, having only consumed the poison. Their bodies were carried up the bunker stairs, doused with gasoline in the Reich Chancellery garden, and set ablaze while Soviet artillery boomed in the distance. The man who'd sent millions to their deaths in camps and battlefields chose to escape judgment by his own hand, leaving nothing but charred remains and a legacy of horror. He was 56 years old. News of Hitler's death spread across the world, marking the end of the European theater of World War II, and spawning decades of conspiracy theories about whether he really died or somehow escaped. Benito Mussolini.
I'm so tired of these high. I'm so tired of these theories of did he die? Nah, he's still alive for sure. Nigga, I'm glad the Tupac is like, you know what I'm saying, in Cuba theories been died out, but nigga, let the dead rest, bro. Please let the dead rest.
Benito Mussolini spent his final hours running. The Italian dictator who'd once strutted on balconies preaching about a new Roman Empire was now disguised in a German military coat, trying to flee to Switzerland. On April 27, 1945, communist partisans stopped a German convoy at a checkpoint near Lake Como. Among the soldiers, they found Il Duce himself, the great fascist leader.
I know his stomach was in his ass for sure. I just know, cuz soundboard ain't working. I just know he. Fuck, they got me. Fuck, he was mad as hell.
Hiding like a common criminal. Mussolini and his mistress, Clara Petacci, were pulled from the convoy and
Hold up.
hiding like a common criminal. Mussolini and his mistress, Clara
She actually look a little decent. I ain't gonna care.
Petacci, were pulled from the convoy and held overnight. The next day, April 28th, a partisan leader named Walter Odisio arrived with orders to execute.
Hey,
The
why
next
that look
day,
like
April
Duke Dennis?
28th, a partisan leader named
Hey, why that look like Duke a little bit? Am I tripping? Besides the ears, they look like Duke a little bit.
Walter Odisio arrived with orders to execute them. Accounts vary on the exact details, but what's certain is this. Mussolini and Petacci were taken to a villa gate in the small village of Giulino di Mezzegra and shot with a submachine gun. The partisans
Do it
loaded
the
the
worst
bodies
way.
into a van and drove them to Milan, to a place called Piazzale Loreto. This wasn't random. Months earlier, Mussolini's regime had executed 15 partisans and left their bodies on display at that exact location. Now it was his turn.
They moving like that? Damn.
When the truck arrived at dawn on April 29th, Mussolini, Petacci, and several other executed fascist officials were dumped on the ground. A crowd gathered quickly, and things got ugly fast. People kicked the corpses, spat on them, fired at them again. One woman reportedly fired 5 more times into Mussolini's body, once for each of her dead sons. Then came the finale. The bodies were hung upside down from the roof of a gas station. The crowd went wild, jeering and celebrating beneath the corpses. news of Mussolini's brutal death flashed across the world, signaling
They used to be wicked back then. Like, they was really wicked back then. Hung the bodies upside down, and they was cheering, yeah, yeah, hip hip hooray. Like, that's insane. We couldn't do that now. You know, me personally, I believe in harsher punishments, you know, because, shit, crime rate to be low. If you steal and you, no, not steal, no, let me say that. If you, PDF file, okay, cool. Do him the worst way. Hang him upside down and beat him with metal bats. Simple as that. And it can get worse. I just can't say as much as I want to say because of YouTube,
the definitive collapse of fascist Italy and marking a symbolic turning point in the final unraveling of World War II. Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il ruled North Korea for 17 years with an iron grip,
Dang.
maintaining one of the most isolated and oppressive regimes on.
Cut this fan off. Hold up. You want to start tweaking out now. My bad. That's on me. My bad.
Earth. He cultivated a personality cult, so extreme that state propaganda claimed he could control the weather and didn't need to use the bathroom. But in December 2011, the man who'd been portrayed as nearly superhuman died from something decidedly human, a heart attack. On December 17, 2011, Kim Jong-il was traveling by train through North Korea when he suffered a massive heart attack, reportedly brought on by physical and mental stress. He was 69 years old. North Korean state media didn't announce his death until 2 days later, on December 19th, claiming he died at 8:30 a.m. on his train while on a field guidance tour. The announcement described him passing during a great mental and physical strain, while dedicating himself to the nation. Official reports said he'd been suffering from diabetes and heart disease for years, though the regime had hidden this from the public. When the news finally broke,
he ain't too far from his pops. That nigga, 42 years old.
North Korean television showed anchor Ri Chun-hee dressed in black, weeping as she announced the dear leader's passing. State media broadcast footage of citizens collapsing in theatrical grief, wailing in the streets and bowing before his portraits. Whether the grief was genuine or performed out of fear, the spectacle was surreal. Kim Jong-il's body was embalmed and placed on display in a glass coffin at the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun in Pyongyang, lying in state alongside his father Kim Il-sung. Unlike many dictators who met violent ends, Kim Jong-il died of natural causes, never facing justice for the starvation, imprisonment, and execution of countless North Koreans. He passed power seamlessly to his son, Kim Jong-un, ensuring the dynasty continued. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin ruled through terror for nearly
I heard he was a bastard. Like, that dude there, I heard he was a animal.
3 decades, but in the end, that same terror might have killed him. On the night of March 1, 1953, Stalin hosted one of his infamous late-night dinners at his dacha near Moscow. He drank heavily with his inner circle of Soviet officials, the same men who lived in constant fear of purges and midnight arrests. Around 4 a.m., Stalin dismissed everyone and retired to his private quarters. Then something happened. Hours passed. Stalin always summoned his guards and staff by mid-morning, but March 2nd came and went with silence from his room. Here's where it gets darkest. His guards and household staff knew something was wrong, but they were absolutely terrified to enter without being called. Stalin had cultivated such a climate of fear that his own people were too scared to check if he was alive. By the time someone finally worked up the courage to peek inside that evening, they found the 74-year-old dictator lying on the floor in a puddle of his own urine, partially paralyzed from a massive stroke. He'd been there for nearly 12 hours. Medical help was summoned, but the delay had done its damage. Stalin lingered for days, unable to speak, his face contorted, slowly dying while doctors tried desperately to save him. Some historians believe his guards delayed on purpose. Others think his own officials might have poisoned him or withheld help intentionally. On March 5, 1953, at 9:50 p.m., Stalin finally died. The announcement triggered mass public mourning across the Soviet Union, but privately, many breathed sighs of relief as his reign came to an end. Rafael Trujillo ruled the Dominican Republic like his personal kingdom for 31 brutal years, ordering
And see, they be ruling for so long, too. That'd be the scary part.
assassinations, tortures, and disappearances with casual cruelty. But on the night of May 30th, 1961, the hunter became the hunted. Trujillo was being driven on a highway outside Santo Domingo when several cars suddenly blocked his route. A group of Dominican conspirators,
Oh, yeah, he know he was done. He know he was.
many of the military officers who'd once served under him, emerged with weapons. They'd been planning this for months, with quiet support from the CIA, who wanted Trujillo gone. The 69-year-old dictator's car was riddled with bullets. Some accounts say
Oh,
Trujillo
yeah.
tried to fight back, pulling out his own pistol and firing at his attackers
He finna
before
feel
being
them
shot
hollow ones.
multiple times.
Ooh.
Within minutes, El Jefe, the chief, was dead on the side of the road, his body torn apart by gunfire. The conspirators loaded his corpse into one of their
Them hot ones he felt, boy.
cars and drove away, unsure what to do next. Trujillo's body ended up stored in the trunk of a car for hours while the assassins debated their next move. Eventually, his remains were recovered by loyalist forces. What followed was chaos. Some conspirators were caught and
Were they just cheering? The hell?
executed. Others fled, and the country descended into political turmoil. For a ruler so brutal, Trujillo's end was fittingly the same. Nicolae Ceausescu. Nicolae and Elena Ceausescu spent Christmas Day 1989 facing a firing squad, and the whole thing was captured on video. After ruling Romania with an iron fist for over 2 decades, the Ceausescus watched their power evaporate during the country's anti-communist revolution. On December 22nd, they attempted to flee Bucharest by helicopter as protests overwhelmed the capital. They were captured within hours. 3 days later, on Christmas Day, they stood trial in a small room at a military base in Targovist. The trial was a rushed affair, lasting barely an hour, with charges of genocide and embezzlement among others. The elderly couple appeared confused and defiant, with Elena repeatedly protesting that the proceedings were illegal. The verdict was never in doubt. Guilty, death sentence. Minutes after the trial concluded, Nicolae and Elena were led.
Bruh, you can't be scared. If you causing mass genocide, you need to stand on that. Like, you truly need to stand on that. I did this, you know what? F it. Do what you gotta do. I'm standing on it. Ain't no apology, ain't no none of that. I'm standing on it. I ain't scared, I'm facing it. Let's do it.
Outside to a courtyard wall, soldiers lined up. The couple was given no chance to say goodbye or make final statements beyond their protests during the trial. The firing squad opened fire, and both Ceausescus dropped dead almost instantly, their bodies riddled with over 100 bullets. The execution was filmed, and that evening, Romanian television broadcast the news, along with footage proving they were dead. The footage spread internationally, shocking viewers who watched a longtime communist leader go from power to execution in just 3 days. Pol Pot.
Oh, they just showed that's a interesting looking person. Oh wow. But yeah, they just showed the dead bodies live on TV. Telling you back then was crazy.
Pot, the architect of Cambodia's genocide that killed up to 2 million people, died quietly in a jungle hut in 1998. After the Khmer Rouge regime fell in 1979, Pol Pot fled into the jungle near the Thai border where he lived as a fugitive for nearly 2 decades. By 1998, he was 73 years old, under house arrest by a splinter faction of his own former movement. On April 15, 1998, Pol Pot died in his sleep, reportedly from heart failure. The timing was suspicious. Just days earlier, remaining Khmer Rouge leaders had agreed to hand him over for an international war crimes trial. Instead, he escaped justice by dying in a bamboo hut. The Khmer Rouge, knowing how skeptical the world would be, did something macabre. They displayed Pol Pot's corpse to journalists, inviting them to photograph the body to prove he was really dead. Images of his lifeless body appeared in newspapers globally. There would be no trial, no accountability, no chance for victims to face him in court. The butcher of Cambodia had literally died in his sleep and avoided answering for millions of deaths. His body was cremated on a makeshift pyre of tires and trash, a pathetic end for a man who'd orchestrated industrial-scale murder. Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein's execution on December 30th.
That's how he
Industrial-scale
looked.
murder. Saddam Hussein.
Like, without everything on, I've never seen him, like, just in anything else but that.
Hussein's execution on December 30th, 2006, was supposed to
No, I'm thinking of Bin Laden. I'm tripping.
be a solemn, controlled event. It wasn't. After the US-led invasion of Iraq and a lengthy trial for crimes against humanity, Saddam was sentenced to death by hanging. At dawn on that December morning, the 69-year-old former dictator was led into an execution chamber at an Iraqi military base in Baghdad. Official protocol was supposed to keep things dignified, but someone in the room had a cell phone. As Saddam stood on the gallows with a noose around his neck, guards began taunting him, shouting sectarian insults. Saddam responded with defiance, reciting prayers until the trapdoor opened and he dropped. The whole thing was captured on a grainy cell phone video that leaked online almost immediately. Saddam, dressed in a black coat, remained composed even as the insults flew. When the floor gave way beneath him, it was over quickly. His body was later returned to his family and buried in his hometown of Tikrit. The execution sparked massive controversy. Some viewed it as justice served, Others condemned the disrespectful treatment of a man facing death, regardless of his crimes. Muammar Gaddafi.
See, that's what I be saying. Like, I get, crimes can be, the punishment can be cruel, but if you're causing mass genocide, you do all this crazy shit, you deserve whatever. The hanging is the most nicest thing you can get done to you. Truly, that's the nicest thing. If it's up to me, we stoning. I want to bring back stoning. Lead the head, neck up, stone.
The disrespectful treatment of a man facing death, regardless of his crimes. Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi ruled Libya for 42 years with a bizarre mix of brutality and eccentricity. On October 20th, 2011, he died begging for mercy in a drainage pipe, and the whole thing was filmed on cell phones. During Libya's civil war, Gaddafi fled Tripoli as rebel forces closed in. He made it to his hometown of Sirte, where he held out for weeks before NATO airstrikes destroyed his convoy. Gaddafi escaped the wreckage and hid in a concrete drainage pipe with a few remaining bodyguards. When rebels found him, they dragged the 69-year-old dictator out into the open. Multiple cell phone videos captured what happened next. A bloodied, disoriented Gaddafi, his face swollen and his clothes torn, being
Beat the brakes off of him. Oh my God.
handled by jubilant fighters. In one video, he's heard pleading, asking what he did wrong. Rebels shouted victoriously, some struck him, and chaos reigned. What exactly happened in those final minutes remains disputed, but Gaddafi was shot, reportedly in the head, and died shortly after his capture. His body was later displayed in Misrata, where locals lined up to see the corpse of their former dictator, lying in a commercial freezer. The phrase "caught like a rat in a drain" became headlines. His body was eventually buried in an unmarked grave in the desert, location undisclosed. Augusto Pinochet ruled Chile for 17 years after seizing power in a bloody 1973 coup that overthrew the democratically elected government of Salvador Allende. During his dictatorship, thousands of Chileans were tortured, killed, or disappeared. But unlike many dictators, Pinochet didn't die violently or in exile. He died in a hospital bed, old and comfortable, never fully answering for his crimes.
Nah. You can't go like that. You cannot go like that. I'm telling you, he got lucky. Because if it was up to me, he got lucky. I'm telling you, stoning is that's it. That's the way to go. Get him out of there quick back. And I want everybody, we either one at a time or we all just chucking big boulders, one or the other.
By 2006, the 91-year-old former dictator had been battling health problems for years. He'd suffered multiple heart attacks and strokes, and his body was finally giving out. On December 3, 2006, Pinochet suffered a massive heart attack and was rushed to Santiago's military hospital. Doctors performed emergency surgery, but complications set in quickly. Over the next week, his condition deteriorated. He suffered additional heart attacks and developed pulmonary edema, his lungs filling with fluid. On December 10, 2006, exactly 1 week after his initial heart attack, and on International Human Rights Day, Augusto Pinochet died surrounded by family members. He was 91 years old. When news of his death reached the streets of Santiago, the reaction was split. Some Chileans celebrated, gathering in the streets to cheer and wave flags, relieved that the dictator was finally gone. Others mourned, viewing him as the man who'd saved Chile from communism and brought economic stability. Here's what made Pinochet's death particularly frustrating for those seeking justice. He'd spent his final years fighting extradition and prosecution. He'd been arrested in London in 1998 on Spanish warrants for human rights violations, but was eventually released on medical grounds and returned to Chile. Back home, he faced multiple indictments for human rights abuses, tax evasion, and embezzlement, but his lawyers repeatedly argued he was too sick and senile to stand trial. The cases dragged on for years, and Pinochet never spent a day in prison for the atrocities committed under his rule. His funeral was a private military affair, and he was cremated shortly after. Pinochet's ashes were divided among family members, with some reportedly scattered in the ocean. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for some.
It was nice, I ain't gonna lie. Like I said, if you really on that tight timing, stand on it. Like, you doing it, go out the same way you doing it. Simple as that. But with that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that noti bell. We upload daily and consistently. Don't forget to check the description below for the Twitch and the TikTok and the Discord. Pull up to the Discord, join in, bro. Get updated on everything. We be live on both platforms, Twitch and TikTok. But with that being said, we only spread love, no hate, and we done. Peace.